I've seen my fair share of dead people, but nobody ever thought anything like that would happen here. My name is Sean Reed. I was a sergeant over crime scene investigations at the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office. When I set foot on that property, I just knew it was going to be a long day. By mid-afternoon, they had located a skeleton. It looked like they had just dug a shallow grave and just folded them up into it. I know it sounds harsh, but we actually took a bucket and put his skull in a bucket to make sure that it didn't get broken or anything during transport. There near the corner of the house was another area that was focused on. We eventually found that body as well. It was just a mound of skeleton flesh and clothing.
Whisper in the night dark, footsteps in the backyard, shadows dance on stained walls, blood rust every nightfall. Fear grips like chains tied, chasing you in moonlight. Eyes gleam with twisted clay, no escape from me.
What up, home slices, home fries, and homes of other varieties? Or if you're new, welcome. I'm Emily, the Fine Art Medium. I'm a psychic medium who specializes in the paranormal and has a degree in social deviance. And so in today's video, we will be discussing Pazuzu Algarad, who was formerly named John Alexander Lawson. And like many of the cases that I've been covering, there is an element of mental health, an element of crime, element of paranormal. It's literally a cluster of fun. And so we're going to get into the background here, like, immediately. So a lot of the information that I have learned is from A, Wikipedia, because love me some wiki, and 2, from the documentary series The Devil You Know. You can watch it on YouTube, though they took down part 1. I'm not sure why. But you can also watch, like, I guess there's 2 seasons here you can buy on YouTube, or you can watch the 40-minute segments that Vice has on their YouTube channel. So I just watched the videos Vice had on their YouTube channel because it was free. But they get into the case. They go in deep. But so this man, this Pazuzu Algarad, formerly known as John Alexander Lawson, he is well known for being a Satanist who eventually come to find that he murdered 2 people that they found in the backyard buried, and he was also charged with accessory to murder after the fact for the death of Joseph Emmerich Chandler. So he was arrested in 2014, but so the accessory after the fact, that incident came first, and he literally got a slap on the wrist for that, and he didn't spend too much time in jail. Actually, it was appalling to see that. I think it was only like 6 months or so. I could be wrong. You can fact check me, but it was around that time, like 6 months-ish, that he spent in jail or prison, whatever you want to call it. But that in of itself is a red flag to me. But so in 2002, he did change his name from John Alexander Lawson to Pazuzu Algarad because he wanted to conform with his satanic beliefs, and he chose the name Pazuzu for his surname. Allah or La Algarad, which means Lord of the Locusts in Arabic. And he died of unaliving himself in a North Carolina prison cell, October 28th, 2015. We're going to get into like some of the balls that were dropped. There were many. And we're going to then, towards the end, go into the paranormal element. Because, hello, this is True Crime with Paranormal. But, so the overall character of Pazuzu, he was very much a rebel. He just rebelled against all the norms in society. So, when 9/11 happened, he dressed up in the garb of the type of people that caused 9/11, which, what the heck? That's screwed up. And yeah, overall, not great. He was diagnosed with quite a few mental health disorders. So in the court documents that is public, and I actually screenshotted it here, but they diagnosed him with panic disorder with agoraphobia, alcohol dependence, status post possible episode of alcohol withdrawal, schizotypal personality disorder, alcoholic hepatitis, abnormal cholesterol, macrocytosis, and possible subclinical hypothyroidism. So they also have other things in here, but in my opinion, based off of the information that I've learned from the documentary and channeling, because I did some of that, he was having issues beginning around the age of 13. And the parents had to stop, or the mother, we only see the mother in the documentary, but she had to stop treatment because she couldn't afford the treatments, which, shame on the public healthcare system, that's screwed up. I mean, if you know that you have somebody that can't afford treatment, they need to give them the resources, and by resources, I mean information of what they can do to get back on there. Whether that's like information about Social Security or something along those lines. But again, public healthcare always drops the ball. So, but yeah, he was having problems as a child. And it just went on and on and on. And in my opinion, I feel like the Satanism, again, was partially to rebel against the environment in which he was growing up in. I feel like there was a lot of, let's just say, I feel like there was a lot of hardship in the home. Maybe abuse, maybe. We don't know much about the father figure, if there was one. And or abandonment issues. I feel like there was some of that, which kind of exacerbated his mental health conditions. The fact that the police, so his initial sentence for the first crime, which was accessory after the fact, and giving him that minimal sentencing time did not help, and they just let him back out. They knew he had these issues, and they did nothing about it. What the heck? Then you have neighbors, you have people that were in close proximity to him, whether they were friends, family, whatever. They reported some sus behaviors. One reported that they heard some strange noises. The one guy reported that there was someone buried in the backyard. And it's like the law enforcement, they did a crappy investigation, a crappy search. I'll insert some of those clips because I'm just like, what the heck? That's bad.
2 weeks after Pazuzu murders Josh Weschler, Tarina Billings goes to the police to tell them what her father told her about her murders. Now, you know, in my opinion, the unsealed warrants make it seem like what the sheriff's department did may have actually made things worse. Now, I decided to take the documents to an old buddy of mine who's a retired detective. He was actually on the force for 30 years, and his perspective in this case is going to be critical. Application for search warrant.
On August the 4th, Foster goes to the location and actually talks to Pazuzu. He just says he went there, and at some point, the detective did tell him that he'd received information from several individuals that Pazuzu had shot and killed someone in his basement and buried the body in the backyard. Don't know that I would have told all that right then. I would have found some other reason. I'd have wanted to get in the house or walk through the yard. I'd wanted to make some observations. Because if he says, I don't know what you're talking about, get off my property and stay off, then you're shot in the foot. I would have probably just come up with something. That somebody said you're growing weed in the backyard, and that way, then maybe he would have said, you know, especially if that's not true, he's gonna say, I ain't growing no weed back here, and you can go look. That's what I want. I want him to give me that access so that I'm looking for these other things, like a body or mound of dirt, a freshly dug hole or something. So, you know, and they could lie to him. I would probably taken a look, continued to gather my information from sources, and then at some other time, once I was just about ready to get a search warrant or had the search warrant, then I might would have gone out there before I executed a search warrant and said, now guess what your neighbors or people are saying.
Next is...
Let's see, you got February 9th, 2010, you got the 2 Crime Stoppers tips that came in.
Yes.
So right here's a missed opportunity.
Yes, sir.
And then also on that date, looks like the detective spoke with Stacy Carter.
Are you telling me, wait, that on the same day that I went and reported Josh missing and told them that he was buried in Pazuzu's yard, on the same day, they had reports about Tommy's murder?
The police department did. The police department did.
I had no idea. I still thought they were gonna think I was crazy. Oh my God, I want to throw up. Like, nobody told me this.
I know.
I had no idea. This makes me nauseous. I had never heard of Pazuzu until February, and that's when I went to the police. And nobody ever told me that they had already received reports of this happening. I just feel like the whole case was just botched over and over again. Since when do you just be like, oh, hey, did you kill somebody? Nope, I didn't do it. Okay, cool. Like, that's not how it works, right?
Then February the 23rd, based on all this information, he applies for and is given a search warrant.
So they do that search and they find nothing.
Right.
This is the interesting part. Lieutenant Foster had consulted with North Carolina State University about potentially utilizing their equipment to assist with the search. Dr. Oliver's crew was currently about to begin another project, and their services could not be retained until at least 2 weeks. It is noteworthy to mention that Dr. Oliver had mentioned to Lieutenant Foster that cadaver dogs may or may not be able to detect a buried body with the given circumstances. The Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, as an agency, decided that this investigation cannot wait the above stated time and decided to proceed with cadaver dogs.
The irony, they couldn't wait 2 weeks, so we had to wait 5 years.
On November the 8th, 2011, Cynthia James came to the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office and requested to speak with a detective about a murder that occurred at her residence, 2749 Nob Hill Drive.
Cynthia told Detective Amons that she heard a gunshot and went to the area where she heard the gunshot and observed Amber holding the rifle and the Tommy subject slumped over on the couch.
And wouldn't that get your attention? I mean, even if you've done a search there and you came up goose egg, somebody tells me that a murder took place in my house. Somebody's mom tells me.
And they didn't do anything. And is there a reason?
So I asked that question. We know that Pazuzu was convicted of assaulting his mother. And we also know that Amber Birch was convicted of assaulting his mother in 2 different incidents. Amber Birch had been arrested that previous night, November 7th, 2011, for domestic assault. And she was at the jail. Cynthia thought that the information she gave us would be enough to charge Amber with murder and became upset when we told her we still needed additional evidence. Since you're the owner of the house,
Right.
would you allow us to search the house?
Yes.
And she said no. Okay, what did they do with that information? It looks like they didn't do anything with the information.
Nothing. I mean, that's negligence. It's got to be. I mean, or they just didn't care.
Going to somebody and being like, hey, we got a tip that you have bodies or a body in your backyard. Do you have a body in your backyard? Like, what person who is obviously guilty is going to admit to that? Okay, I went to school to be a police officer. Obviously didn't work out, but that had more to do with my height, unfortunately, because apparently I'm too small. But I know at least the basics when it comes to how to handle like search and seizure and how to go on and talk to potential suspects. You don't put all your cards out in front of them for them to effectively plan out their escape or navigate their way out of it. Like, what the heck? It's like toddlers are running the show there. I'm just saying Ghost would have been a better police officer. And the freaky thing is too, like, the equipment that they needed, they weren't able to get it. And because they were in a rush, they used a tactic to try to locate bodies, which they even admitted that wasn't even a good way to go about it. And they used their cadaver dogs, and they didn't find anything the first time. I'm not gonna lie, Ghost, my dog child, would have done a way better job. He's not trained as a cadaver dog, but let me tell you, the way in which he can find dead animals buried under the snow, buried under the ground, he's got skill. Because that's happened. Obviously it wasn't a person, but yeah, Ghost has more skill, more common sense than some of these law enforcement people. And I'm sorry, but the smell in the house, to be honest, the smell of death to me is kind of like a dead giveaway, and is a good reason of probable cause to kind of do maybe a search or at least get a warrant. Like, come on. If it smells like death and there's suspicious behavior going on, maybe there might be a death involved. I don't know. But yeah, what the heck. Now, one of the impressions I got when kind of like channeling and even looking at the documentary and stuff, it's kind of like law enforcement, and this is like an opinion or a guess or suspicion, I feel like law enforcement saw them as a bunch of like druggies and kind of chalked it up to them just messing around, doing that kind of thing, and not taking it seriously. But not only that, the prison system's already full of people, of drug addicts and just those who use and abuse and do petty crimes like that. And so they probably just didn't want to add to the overcrowding that was already going on, plus the lack of staff in those prison systems. I will say this, and this is alleged, okay, for entertainment purposes only, if you want to call it that. But I also feel like there's a little bit of corruption going on in the law enforcement in that area. I don't want to say that it's because of negligence, because how can you say, and how can, I don't know, the things that they were negligent on seemed so commonsensical. Is that even a word? I don't even know. But it seemed to be so common sense that it's like, how could you mess that up? How? So that's where I'm kind of leaning towards corruption. But also Spirit was telling me how specifically in that area there, I gotta be careful how I word this. There's people in prison over there, and I'm sure this could be said all across the United States, but specifically there are people in that prison system that are innocent, which that's not good, obviously, for them and the families. And just like the overall prison system and what it does to the people that are there serving their time. Some people, yeah, it can correct them. Some people, it just has a worse effect on their mental health and their physical health, and it just makes them worse. So, yeah, we need some prison reform. But ever since I decided that I was going to do this case and started looking into it, I got overly nauseous and my headache and just weird pain sensations in my body, which to me signals that there is a negative attachment involved. And with that, it's like, it started pretty young for him. You know, he went through the hardships in the home, which made his mental health situation worse, which made it easier for the attachment to kind of like become more influential. Now, the other thing too is they diagnosed him with schizotypal personality disorder. I have to disagree. With that diagnosis. And I'll tell you why. In my opinion, I think he had borderline personality disorder. But so somebody with schizotypal personality disorder, they usually have to, like, the criteria includes 5 or more of the symptoms, which are, you have to be a loner and lack close friends and other relationships outside of the immediate family, have flat emotions or have emotional responses that are limited or not proper socially, have too much social anxiety, which is ongoing, incorrectly interprets events such as feeling that something harmless or not offensive has a direct personal meaning, have strange or unusual thinking, beliefs, or mannerisms. I feel like that was a big one in the eyes of the person who diagnosed him because of the Satanism and like the animal sacrifices. And then have suspicious or paranoid thoughts and constant doubts about the loyalty of others, belief in special powers such as mental telepathy or superstitions that can go along with this Satanism, have unusual thoughts such as sensing an absent person's presence or having illusions, dress in odd ways such as appearing messy or wearing oddly matched clothes, speak in odd ways such as vague or unusual patterns of speaking or ramble oddly while speaking. And you can find this in the mayoclinic.org, but symptoms of schizotypal personality disorder such as more interest in activities done alone or a high level of social anxiety may be seen in the teen years. The child may not do well in school or appear socially out of step with peers. This may lead to teasing or bullying. Okay, well, if he had a really crappy home life, right, that can contribute to getting poor grades, not doing well in school socially, his rebellious phase, and stuff like that. But the reason why I believe it's borderline personality disorder, and I'll go through the symptoms here, and this you can find on nimh.nih.gov, which I'll have all my sources listed down below. But people with borderline personality disorder may experience intense mood swings and feel uncertainty about how they see themselves. Their feelings for others can change quickly and swing from extreme closeness to extreme dislike. These changing feelings can lead to unstable relationships and emotional pain. People with borderline personality disorder also tend to view things in extremes, such as all good or all bad. Their interests and values can change quickly, and they may act impulsively or recklessly. Other signs or symptoms may include efforts to avoid real or perceived abandonment. This is a key thing here, abandonment. And I fully believe that he had those types of issues. And even Spirit pointed that out. But such as plunging headfirst into relationships or ending them just as quickly. A pattern of intense and unstable relationships with family, friends, and loved ones. He had a lot of that going on. He had multiple girlfriends. He had a friend group. And if he has social anxiety, I'm sorry, but maybe when he was younger, but it didn't appear all that way in his older years. A distorted and unstable self-image or sense of self. Impulsive and often dangerous behaviors such as spending sprees, unsafe sex, substance misuse, which we know of, reckless driving, and binge eating. Those are just a few examples. However, these behaviors may happen mostly during times of elevated mood or energy. They may be symptoms of a mood disorder and not borderline personality disorder, which makes sense. But self-harming behavior, such as cutting, he had self-harming behaviors, especially when he was locked up. And I believe there was a part where they did say he tried, like, biting his arm off or gnawing at his arm. Like, it's weird. Recurring thoughts of suicidal behaviors or threats. He unalived himself in prison. Intense and highly variable moods, with episodes lasting from a few hours to a few days, chronic feelings of emptiness, inappropriate, intense anger or problems controlling anger. Feelings of disassociation. I feel like this is a big one. Such as feeling cut off from oneself, observing oneself from outside one's body, or feelings of unreality. And a lot of times people with borderline personality disorder usually do a lot of crimes. It's like they can't help it. They have to do stuff like that. But I feel like obviously the unaliving of himself was a huge one. The feelings of abandonment, I feel like that's huge. And based off of what I was getting in my channel, I picked that up. I feel like, I don't know much about his home life. I don't know what happened, like if he had a father or if his father walked out. I don't know much information about that. But I feel like even if the mother was there originally by herself, I feel like there was some feelings of abandonment, even if it was like perceived on his end, like, oh, like she's not there for me in a way, or there was some kind of abuse, alleged abuse, physical or mental, and or hardships. We know there were hardships, but based off of how the mother kind of like interacts with the people she's talking to, like the one victim's wife, just watching that interaction between them, she's so in denial. Oh my God. And when you have something like that, part of it could be fear, part of it could be a coping mechanism, but I feel like she's been that way for a lot of her life. But I definitely feel like there's something going on the mother's side of things too, that just made his health issues, his mental health issues, worse. It almost feels like her son tried to go to her for help, especially in his like younger years, as when he was a child. And there was some kind of bad situation that she either knew of or did nothing about, and he needed her and she let him down in some way. I mean, if you think about it, the whole mental health thing, yeah, it sucks that they were not able to afford the care he needed. In a way, it's kind of like he could perceive that as her not helping him. But if that could be one aspect, or just the aspect of, oh, society doesn't care about me, like I'm nothing. And maybe he could have gotten that abandonment issue there. But I also feel like there was some sort of alleged abusive situation or something along those lines. But again, we don't know too much about it. But yeah, it definitely feels like he's been let down a lot by the people he's cared about, especially as a child. And I feel like especially with family. And that's why I feel like that's part of his abandonment issues, either physically or mentally, but not getting the care that he needed. Because whether or not there's paranormal elements in this case, there's still a mental health issue that needs to be solved or fixed or done something about. Something needed to be done. But because it wasn't, that's when I feel like it was much easier for the attachment to influence him. And he does have an attachment, or he did have an attachment. And I drew it. I did. This thing is creepy AF. So, there we go. It's had this tongue situation, and then this thing under it with the ears. I don't know. But, yeah, not good. And just because someone is a Satanist doesn't mean necessarily they could have an attachment, though I would say it's a safe bet a lot of the time that is true. But I'm just saying, like, not everybody that is a Satanist has that, but I would say it's a high percentage. And that's not shaming anyone in their beliefs. I'm not trying to do that whatsoever. But yes, this entity with the tongue, it had a pale white face, like white. Its eyes were dark, but you could see like the slits. It almost was like that dark brown. I don't have anything to like compare, but it was like a dark brown and like black around. And yeah, hair was black, and it was just moving its tongue around and was creepy. It's non-human. And then the thing below it with the ears, I don't know if it's a separate entity or the same entity, but the fact that he's doing satanic rituals and sacrificing animals, that brought in a lot of evil. I'm actually kind of glad they demolished the house. I mean, it was unlivable. It was nasty. But I don't feel like anyone would be able to live in there. That thing would have been haunted AF. But at the end of the day, the adults in his life failed him as a child, in addition to the healthcare system. When he was diagnosed with his issues right then and there, those physicians should have given them the proper resources, like I said, especially if they knew that they weren't going to be able to afford it or to continue treatment. He lacked proper guidance, but also trustworthy adults who had his best interest in mind. Lastly, I am appalled by the law enforcement. I can't. Like, I have no words. I cannot comprehend. No comprehendo. For real. Yeah, it's like mental illness can be a gateway, and then you add in substance abuse, which, you know, they were doing that, and then you add in the attachment and the influence of that. When he did the murders, and the way they kind of like describe him, how he kind of just like, it was like he wasn't there. Yeah, it's because he was possessed. That point, he was possessed, and he did those things. I'm not trying to take away accountability whatsoever. There was a lot of things that he had control over and dropped the ball. He is not innocent in any of this whatsoever, so I just want to make that clear. But yeah, this case just makes me so frustrated. And yeah, I think I'm gonna end it there because I can't. It makes me so mad. But guys, if you made it this far and you watched the entire video, thank you so much for watching and sticking around till the end. I will see you tomorrow, and peace out.